Hello, welcome back to another episode of Neonz React. Today we'll be reacting to the absurd adaptation of Bocchi the Rock. Yeah, the anime Bocchi the Rock. I haven't actually watched that, but I wonder what absurdity it has. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight into the videos.
I myself am a huge fan of the craft of animation. I'm a Sakuga connoisseur, if you will.
Yeah, same. Like,
but I know that
the
not
animation
everybody
and
out
like
there
all of
is.
it.
This is a
It's just
community that can
amazing in
enjoy
itself.
and
Yeah.
even don't notice anime that just look like absolute trash. So that leaves me in an interesting dilemma where I talk about a lot of series for their more foundational merits
just
first,
ignore it
and
if
then
like the
talk
story
about
is
animation,
really
and
good.
then talk
But
about
like
production and
Demon
visuals
Slayer,
as
for
kind of its own
example.
separate grading category, when in
No,
reality
it's not.
those aspects, that production, are often tied to parts of the foundation itself. There's writing, fights, world building, all kinds of stuff in anime that live or die by what was put into the production. So what happens when you have a series whose identity is intrinsically tied to its production? The times when aesthetic and visuals and animation are so crucial and so integral to the series that it becomes the primary thing that is elevating the content.
Yeah,
well,
he's showing Demon Slayer.
Yeah. Bocchi the Rock.
Like the band, like I don't like kind of like music band kind of shows or anime, but I wonder.
To call
like I have
Bocchi the
watched
Rock
some of like the
creative would be
zombie
one of the largest understatements
one.
that I have ever uttered on this channel. This is a series that seemingly revels in any opportunity it gets to convey its comedy and convey its drama.
Yeah, the animation and like it's really cool and like
I guarantee you have never seen before.
And especially
in
the color palette is
and
like
I
don't know what's the color, but like the color palette is just
gags in this series that don't even use animation. Comedy is the lifeblood of this series, and any chance Bocchi has to surprise you or make you laugh through its excessively fun
was actually
and
in the
creative
show?
uses of framing, timing, or just sheer animation power, you better goddamn believe it's going to do it to elevate the extensive commitment it has to its gags and to its character writing. I mean, take this sequence for example. Kita, Nijika, and Bocchi are all together trying to draft ideas for official clothing for their band, and Nijika happens to make one single little offhand comment about how they're not here to make shirts that look like sports festival uniforms, they're here to make something that looks cool. And with that one comment, that one half a second remark from Nijika, the anime series known as Bocchi the Rock takes it as a personal challenge to expand and elaborate on Bocchi's inner feelings in the most extra, superlative method imaginable. One that begins with a no-joke, real-life zoetrope sequence to express the sheer terror Bocchi is facing, and then followed up by a minute-long sequence complete in 4:3 cropping of a post-apocalypse where Bocchi is being executed for not cooperating in the sports festival.
The effort that they put in for the comedy is
would be an understatement of incredible proportions.
I mean,
now, with everything that's been said so far, you might have the idea that what I'm saying is that Bocchi the Rock's value as an anime really does lie in its animation and its presentation.
Yeah, from what he's saying, it's kind of like that.
You would be right, that is essentially what I'm saying, but not because the source material is bad, okay? At the end of the day, Bocchi the Rock is an entertaining story with fun characters, some snappy, sardonic humor.
Oh yeah,
but
it's like a good, like a really good story,
some surprising
put
character
it with
development and growth and good moments
great animation.
Bocchi and Nijika. It's all there, and it's only been getting stronger and stronger as the series progresses. But it's also something that, without a doubt, would not stand out to me nearly as much as it does without that expressive core, that ingenious and endlessly imaginative conveyance of the source material.
Yeah, the effort that they put in, like the animation
think that goes
itself.
for a lot of other people as well. If you look at Bocchi the Rock's source material, you will instantly find that it is a yonkoma series, basically a manga that is split up into series of 4 panels that usually focus on telling short, punctuated sequences of comedy or just little scenes in general. But the other thing you might notice just by looking at these pages on the screen is that The manga is undeniably more plain when you compare it to the anime.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
It is a much simpler piece
like the
of
animation,
work,
it have
and
like
even the
more
iconic
expressive,
Bocchi
more
faces that you have likely
expression.
seen scattered
Holy.
across the internet are not even as frequent as you might expect reading the source that they all came from. Now, the point of all this is not to dump on this source material and the original mangaka. It's not exactly something that I would see myself reading, but clearly there was enough merit to this work that talented people in the anime industry were longtime fans of this property and had a lot of passion for bringing this story to life. Even to the extent that the character designer and chief animation director was constantly asking producers if and when it was getting adapted just so that they could be a part of it. What I'm really trying to say is that the manga is a good way to contrast what the anime brings to the table, because since it's so unassuming and so relatively simple in its execution,
when we like watch anime, we really don't see much about it. Like Dr. Stone, for example,
also just understand
like the animation kind of make Dr. Stone more expressive
on a fundamental level. You can't just hide behind flashy animation or absurdly creative gags. You have to actually like and appreciate the core of what this series is. Some people will, and some people won't. I've already heard a number of people who went to the manga because of how much they were enjoying the anime and found themselves underwhelmed because the execution really is so much more restrained and simplistic. But it's that ethos that I think is what makes the anime as good as it is. It's made by people who do appreciate
they
and
really
do
love
enjoy
their
that
craft.
source material. People
they really
who
love their
understand
craft,
the depth
and you just
the
can
nuance
feel it
has
inside the
that
anime.
Cute girl exterior. People who see the gaps in these Yonkoma panels and are constantly thinking about ways that they can flesh out the ideas that keep the spirit alive, but elevate everything into a way that genuinely becomes universally appealing. Take this scene, for instance. Bocchi is trying to come up with lyrics for Kesoku Band's first song, and she wants to create something that isn't emblematic of her antisocial and depressing tendencies. In order to do this, she projects in her head that she's just this party fiend who drinks and surfs pools
Basically
at night,
an introvert
and you get
trying
a
to
little
be an
image of party
extrovert.
Bocchi, and then you move on to the next part of the gag. However, when you look at this scene in the anime, it gets a little bit more in-depth, we'll say.
明るい人間になりきるんだ。私は陽キャ。
Really like an introvert trying to be an extrovert.
そしてクイーンオブウェイの名を我が物にする女。
I even extrovert, they don't do it that much. This is what introverts sing that
This
extrovert
is
do.
just one of many examples in this series of the anime taking the general concept and script from the manga, but transforming it in a way that is almost unrecognizable as far as ingenuity and creativity goes. The Tsuchinoko attention whore monster, the glitchy, spazzy dead Bocchi, any of these recognizable, iconic memes or gifs that you've seen from the series are almost certainly things that were technically there in the manga,
but it's
elevated
not as
in
cool.
a way that feels transcendent. This also goes for the dramatic and more grounded parts of the series as well. Like the director says, this is a story that succeeds not just with its unhinged slice-of-life humor that we've been talking about, but also in this beautiful coming-of-age story for Bocchi as a character. I remember dismissively saying in the very first episode that I fully expected this series to have very little character development or progression, just because it's a comedy, one, but more
a lot of
specifically
banter
than
going
that,
on.
it's a comedy whose humor is so intrinsically tied to the character of Bocchi and the way that she behaves. So how do you develop a character like that? How do you develop this personality whose story completely relies on that personality? Well, subtly. Gradually. It's not like Bocchi's character ever completely changes, but what makes her so special is you see the little ways that she is changing.
So like character development, even if it's like,
even if it's like not drastic, more, the way that she becomes more comfortable talking to her bandmates, and probably the one that stands out to people the most, you see her perform. The performances in Bocchi the Rock are extremely interesting to me because functionally they act as the narrative climaxes that symbolize some form of growth in Bocchi, and naturally
as
in anime you want these performances to impact you and look and feel really, really cool. And they do, but they do it in a way that is very different from the approach that the rest of the series takes. In contrast to how absolutely insane and wild and unhinged
also,
the
like when they
animation
play
and
music, it's more
presentation is
grounded.
everywhere else, the actual performances are extremely realistic and
Yeah, it's more
nuanced.
grounded.
They're carefully constructed intentionally to simulate this idea that you are watching real, inexperienced people up on stage performing and gaining experience. I mean, they even use real-life actors performing with the characters in mind, specifically for the base of the animation. There's just
they even
clearly
put
a
like
lot of
motion
intentionality and work being put in
like,
to
just
deliver
like the
on that contrast.
the
and
studio
on
that created
premise.
they
And
really
I think
love
it's
their
something
craft.
that you would only get from a team like this that
Yeah.
understands this source and its characters. And at the end of the day, that's really what
just
I
have,
walk
like,
away
huge
from
respect
this
for that man.
adaptation feeling the most. Beyond the incredibly obvious truth that it's being made by extremely talented people, what I really feel
But there's
is
also,
that
like, they
it's
put
being
love
made by
into it,
people
yeah.
with a true, genuine
Even though they
fan
like
love
talent,
of
sometimes
this
talented
property,
like
and
people,
not only honing
if
in
like
on
they
the
don't
essentials of
enjoy
what
the
fans do
process,
love about the
then
property,
yeah,
but also
you
transforming
can just feel it
and elevating
inside
them
the
in a way
product.
that captivates an entirely new audience. I hope this series continues and ends strongly, and I hope that this team continues showing us what makes Bocchi's Rock so goddamn cool.
Wow, it really does show that sometimes like if like the team or the studio behind like the anime, like they put their love into it and like put their full into it, then it just came out like a really great anime, just like Cyberpunk Edge Runner and also Bocchi the Rock, like this one. And like you can feel it the difference like between the manga and the anime. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Don't forget to go down and like and subscribe. It's been your boy Neonz. Goodbye.